Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Lonely Liberal Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Zankin, and I'm so happy to have you on this lovely Sunday. We got a great show for you today. Rick and I are going to go through a heck of a week of news. I mean, my God, between the Iran war continuing, Kristi Noem getting canned, the Department of Justice finding a bunch of more Epstein files linked to Trump, it's a pretty crazy week. And also, just for a little podcast update, if you've ever been curious, about video stuff, we are now on our YouTube posting at least the Rick and I conversation bit on YouTube. So this part won't be on YouTube, so very special listening to it. For my audio only guys, which actually I'm more of an audio guy, but people have been clamoring for the video show. So if you want to help me out, you can go subscribe there, whatever. But just wanted to let you know that's there. So we got a lot to talk about, so I should stop my yapping. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alrighty, and we are back with Rick. Rick, what's up, dude?
Hey, great to be back. Not much. How are you doing?
Good. How are you feeling? I think this is gonna be our video reveal, our face reveal for the audience. At least people who are committed enough to click on the YouTube video that isn't as polished as the actual show. But still, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, pretty big deal. We tested it out last week, so we'll see. I feel like video is king right now in the podcast world, so we're reluctantly revealing faces.
Exactly, and we will improve it over time as we figure out, the layouts and things like that.
Our appearances specifically will hopefully improve over time, but don't hold your breath.
You can age with us as we bald and get fatter over the years. No, I mean, that's the other thing too with having like a live thing like this that we do regularly. Like you'll see slowly the demise of our appearance, which already isn't. It's not like we're starting off so hot.
No.
So this is a risky move, but we're going live. Also, remember now that we're live, we're always kidding. Don't come yelling at us if you see us now. We're joking around here. We're having fun.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta laugh at the absurdity and even like how over the top everything is, even when it's terrible.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
It's all just so ridiculous.
Which is a perfect setup for this week. But before we get into this week, sometimes when we're doing this show and we're talking and, we're doing some good stuff, I'm thinking, like maybe we aren't that dumb. We're pretty smart. We're cruising. And then every now and then in the real world, at least, I get hit with like a ton of bricks of how dumb I actually am. And it happened to me yesterday and I'm shooken up by it. So I figured I'd lead with the show to let people know who they're really dealing with right off the jump. Because it was one of those things where it was happening live and I was just like, oh no, this is so embarrassing. Listen to this. Yesterday, I'm going to go buy some running shoes because my running shoes are busted. So I was like going to go get some new ones. And I went to a legit running shoe store, which have you ever been to one of those before? Like a more fancy running shoe store?
Yeah, back in high school, I went to the one in Lexington.
Oh, yeah. I forgot it when we got the cleats, like those fancier shoes. Yeah, exactly. It was like that. But their technology has gone like way crazier since then. You know what I mean? So they have like scans and stuff like this that they do on your foot. And they're like really thinking about how what shoe will fit your foot best, which is awesome. I love the data. Both of us love data. So I love that data. So anyways, I'm with this kid who's helping me out. He's probably like 20, it's just his job. He puts me on the machine and he goes, so, you're a size 12. So you probably you size up a half for when you run. And I'm like, no, what? And he goes, yeah. And I go, dude, I'm wearing a size 10.5 right now. And he goes, your foot's a size 12. And I go, are you serious? And he goes, yeah. And I go, I've been wearing a 10.5 or 11 my whole life. And he's just like, what? And I'm just like, and he's like, so are your feet just curled up at the toe? And I go, I thought everything was snug. I thought that was supposed to be what shoes were like. And they were like, no, not at all. And I was just like, what do you mean? So not only have I been wearing a size 1.5 too small for like the last 20 years, I guess. This is the craziest bit. My arches on my feet are in the 99.9 percentile like where I'm walking like this, and the guy literally said, it's probably because you're wearing shoes so tight, you're curled up.
Oh, no.
So your bones are, so like, I'm walking around like the freaking Grinch, like tiptoeing around. My arches are all messed up. And it's because I didn't know how shoes work, I guess. I don't know. So this was a real, and just the look of disappointment on that kid's face really stung. I'm just like, I am an idiot. So yeah, I am now
Wow,
wearing
so-
normal shoes.
Have you had a problem with like, I feel like you would wear out your shoes quicker because
Yeah, and my feet always hurt and kill. But I thought that was just what things were like. I just thought everyone was like wearing shoes and like in pain all the time. I just thought that was normal. Like, and I didn't want to look like a wuss. I was like, oh, everyone else is just trucking along. Like, and I walk a lot and run a lot. Like, I'm easy, 12, 15,000 steps every day. Like, I walk a ton. So, like, my toes are all fucked up. My ankles are all I just thought that was what feet looked like. Like, I didn't realize. No one looks at my feet. No one comments. Yeah, everyone's like, oh, your feet are weird. Yeah, I know. I thought they were weird feet. I had weird feet. Like, I didn't know that there was this, like, normal foot experience. So anyway, he hooked me up with a foot size 12 shoe and a arch support thing. I feel like I'm walking on clouds now. I feel incredible.
Really?
Yeah, it changed the game for me. I'm limber. I feel like I'm faster now.
I mean, I'd like to think I would know if I was wearing shoes that were 2 sizes too small, but now I'm doubting. Now I'm doubting it myself. Now I'm like, I got to get hooked up to that machine.
Yeah, I had to get everything sorted. Well, okay, like, I felt really bad about it immediately, but then I was, like, thinking to myself, first of all, I probably haven't had my shoe actually sized since I was, like, 12 years old. Like, or I put it in that metal thing where they did it. So I didn't realize also, your feet change after puberty, kind of. I didn't know that was a thing. And then second of all, who's, like, the thing with the shoe sizes, like, how everyone's like, oh, well, Nike could run small or New Balance runs large. Like, I just didn't know, like, these feel tighter because maybe they're just the New Balance ones. Like, they run tight or whatever. Like, anyways, there's no excuse. It's an embarrassment. So I figured I'd lead with that off the show because, we're going to talk about a bunch of serious stuff, but at least you guys know how shoes work probably. And I don't. But trust me, I can tell you about Iranian diplomacy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that before we go on? Like, is that so crazy? Like, am I in it?
It's a big revelation. And
it changed everything for me.
I mean, not to get you wound up, but I'd be questioning some other things about myself,
What do you mean? What is that supposed to mean?
Do your clothes fit?
Are you saying I'm too tight? Are you saying everything's been too tight for too long?
I thought it was just the new look you were getting.
What? Am I tight? Am I tight?
You've always been a slim fit type of guy.
Okay, first off, I'm a slim guy, usually. Historically speaking. And
Depending
also,
on the week.
Yeah, well, you're treading on thin ice with your reason. We can point the gun across the camera and we'd have a lot to hit. But no. No.
Yeah, my pants may not fit, but my shoes do. So
yeah, no. I mean, you're right. It's a good point. It does make me think though that like I do need a resize of everything, like just like a whole refresh of my whole. No, to your point, actually, I did have that thought. Like I need a refresh of everything now.
And is this going to affect? You're a little bit of a sneakerhead. And those are big with like sizes 9 and 10. Like it's more difficult to be a sneakerhead if you're looking for size 12, right?
Yeah, and also like, should I even be wearing my shoes now that I know are way too small, right? Like I've got 10, 12 sneakers that I'm like, are they actively like Chinese binding my feet?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, are those safe? Not safe. Like, what have I been doing? So I may have to have a sale. Like, I might have to have. I might have to have a little bit of a yard sale, get rid of these shoes and buy some new ones because I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, put it up on Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, yeah. People come to my house.
Maybe a listener will buy it.
Yeah, if you guys are 10 and a half, 11, you want a pair of sneakers.
Game-worn shoes. I wore these while recording the first season of The Lonely
Liberal. Lonely Liberal slipper. Also, like, it's also, like, so weird to, like, yeah, anyway. No Patreon, just, like, we sell used sneakers.
We just sell our old clothes.
That's how we make money on this show. We don't have ads. We're not ad-supported to act all noble. We just sell our old clothes. It's actually a thrift shop. We actually believe in thrifting here. But anyway, we should probably get to the news. So we got a lot to talk about. And 10 minutes of how your host is an idiot. But so basically there are a few branching stories, but we should probably lead, even though we're going to get to Noem. Don't worry. I know people want to hear about Kristi Noem. And that will be a big one. But first, I think we should just recap kind of the second week of the Iran war. Because now, when it first happened last week, from the White House, frankly, we heard a lot of conflicting, is it a war? Is it just tactical strikes? Well, that's completely gone away now. It's now officially war. We can all call it a war. And so, according to the Iranian Red Crescent, which is their Red Cross, more than 1,300 people have been killed in Iran, 6 Americans, so not normal that way, 10 Israelis, so yeah, death. But obviously the most controversial of all of that was the elementary school that was in Iran that killed 170 people, mostly kids. The U.S. said they're investigating. It's looking like the U.S. did that, which means the U.S. committed war crimes. If so, I mean, I guess it's not 100% confirmed, but not great. But one of the other things that I just wanted to get over before we get to more specific things, so far, the Iranian war is costing the U.S. $1 billion per day, according to the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Did you see this? So I just want people to realize this. When they say they don't have money for health care or for, free kids' school lunches or whatever random program, remember they miraculously conjured up $1 billion a day for these Iranian war that nobody wanted. So, green energy's too much. It would just be too expensive to do health care like this, blah, 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 or free college or blah, blah, blah. They can find the money. They've got plenty of money. Remember these moments when they are backpedaling about how important the debt is and how broke they are and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, Rick, what are your overarching thoughts before we get into more particulars?
Yeah, I think that's a key point because it's really been a repeat of the early 2000s in a lot of ways where, like, the economy's not doing great. We don't have money for anything except big tax cuts that are mainly benefiting the rich, but then we can hop into one or two new wars without batting an eye. And just like you said,
no
like
issue,
without this massive amount of concern about paying for it, it's like it's not even a concern. It's not even mentioned. It's just like assumed. Oh yeah, what's $1 billion a day?
I know, it's nuts though. It's crazy. Like that alone should be enough that any conservative that voted for Trump based off no new wars, fiscal response, all the fake crap, that alone, this combo of war in Iran, $1 billion a day, right? Like if you truly think any of the stuff you had said, that should be enough to call it, right?
Right, exactly. And like I feel like Trump and his administration isn't even trying that hard to make the America first case for this war. Like, of course they're saying like, yeah, they were developing nuclear weapons, so at some point we were going to have to go in anyway. But like, they don't even really seem to be trying like nearly to the same level of Bush and Cheney to convince people that this is necessary for our self-defense. They're just like, yeah, the leader of Iran was crazy. He had to be taken out. Israel said now's the time, so we're going in. And like, that's it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's the same with the way he handled Venezuela. Like, they didn't even pretend it was really about the human rights violations that Maduro was literally doing. Like, they were just like, we wanted the oil. Like, we love the oil. Like, we need the oil. Like, they're not even... And it's a theme we often talk about on the show of how Trump isn't even he's a terrible politician, like in the sense of like statesmanship and conversationalist and leadership. And I really feel like nothing showed that more than in this week's Time magazine interview that he had, where the Time interviewer said, should Americans be worried about retaliatory strikes at home, right? So on American soil. And Trump responded with, I guess. Which the direct quote before people think Nick's parsing it, yada, yada, yada. I want to read it. So if you see me looking off, I'm just reading the quote. So I guess, but I think they're worried about that all the time. No, we're not. I'm not. I just want to let you know, I'm not normally worried of Iran striking us. But anyway, worried about that all the time. We think about it all the time. Yep, you're the president. We plan for it. But yeah, we expect some things. Like I said, some people will die. When you go to war, some people will die. What? like, not only is that terrifying that he's making it seem like there's a really good % chance there could be some Iranian strike on American soil. My God, what a bad leader. like in any context, that would be such poor leadership. You think we're going out of business? Well, you never know, right? We're worried about it. We worry about it all the time. Or like, you think we're going to lose the Super Bowl? Any team could lose at any moment. Like, it's just not how you rally the troops, literally. Like it's just, has he ever seen anything motivational ever? Like, it's such bad leadership.
Right. Like how he doesn't see that as an opportunity to reassure Americans that they're safe. Even if he's saying some Americans will die in the Middle East fighting this war, that's not what the question was about. The question was about a strike on the homeland. And he said, I guess.
And it's so funny to me because this is a man who lies about almost every single thing, period. And this is the moment he decides to play it straight. Yeah, we could die. Lie. That's when you lie. Say we're totally safe. This is when you talk with nuance? It's crazy. This is a man who just 1 week ago said the U.S. economy grew by 50% due to foreign investment alone last year, and that there had been 0 border crossings since he took office. This is the same guy now who says the strikes came, Trump had... So anyway, a little more thing actually before we move on. The White House had to clarify later, right? Like, what did he mean when he said, I guess, right? And the direct quote that said, Trump has a feeling based on fact that this could happen. What? Again, not a big enough story in my eyes, because that is just these are the moments where he really sucks. It reminds me of COVID, right? No confidence, no professionalism, just... you're not supposed to show that you're learning as you go.
He has an inability to pretend to care. Never mind an inability to care. He can't. He's completely incapable of pretending to care, which isn't a great quality for the president to have.
Wouldn't be a good quality for the manager of McDonald's.
Right, but a lot of what we talk about is what's the appeal of Trump? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of his appeal, certainly when he ran the first time, but still, if you talk to his supporters, is he doesn't give a shit what people say about him or what people think about him, and just that basic thing.
You say it how it is. He's what we're all thinking. He's just a tough guy, blah, blah, blah.
And he does care an incredible amount what people think and say about him, which is, a side point. But this is the flip side of acting like you don't give a shit all the time. The flip side is when you start invading countries and people are like, are we going to get bombed? And he's like, I guess. This is the flip side of that personality that's also part of his appeal.
It's just so unappealing to me. I just can't understand. I just can't relate at all. It's just... to me, holy smokes, it's so bad. He's so bad. And speaking of not caring, is this Congress the most pathetic body of Congress we've ever seen in our lives? right? It has to be. So this week, the House rejected an Iranian war power resolution, which, of course, was, the thing that they now do as pretend every time after the U.S. starts a war to remind the American people that technically Congress is supposed to be the one who declares war, not just the president unilaterally. This time, 4 Democrats joined the Republicans to kill it. Massey and Davidson from the Republicans voted to vote for it. The Senate had already kind of shooed this away the day before. I'm not even this is just disappointing normalness, but can we just talk about the concept of this and how clearly broken this system is of passing war power resolutions about particular countries after strikes? You know what I mean? Because to be fair, it would be pretty dumb to completely stop now after you fucked everything up, right? Like, you take Maduro out of Venezuela and you go, we're done. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of have to continue, like, after you ruin the country, in a way. And it's the same with the Iranian stuff. Like, I actually can see why someone would vote to not do it now because, like, you just killed 1,200 people and their leader. Like, what are you going to run away now? Like, obviously, this is saying that Congress should make the rules, and I get the nuance of it all. But, like, this system is so broken and in the future needs to be completely redone. How war is called and who's acting what and these resolutions after the fact. Because this is something that, like, I'm 100% certain that if Obama was doing a strike somewhere and then the Republicans did the same thing, the Democrats would vote against it and it would be this. Like, I don't think this is a partisan thing per se. This is just blind support of whatever action the person in power's party has done. And I don't think this is really that unique. And I don't understand why this is even the way things happen. You know what I mean? In general. But what do you think?
Right. Like, I mean, in general, like, some of these war powers resolutions are just reaffirming how the Constitution is set up. Yeah. And that Congress should be the one that ultimately has to authorize it outside of, like, narrow, immediate self-defense concerns. So yeah, like, good point. Clearly the system's broken. And also, like, there's just no consistency anymore within the Republican Party other than we'll do what Trump wants.
Yeah.
Like, to only have 2 out of 220 Republicans, like, voting to give themselves the power that they should already have.
Yeah.
It is wild.
It's insane.
And one of them is Thomas Massey, who's obviously enemy number 1 in the Trump world right now. And so, like, he doesn't care. So, like, they convinced one Republican, basically. Like, Thomas Massey was the sponsor. So, like, they effectively he convinced one of his 220 Republican coworkers to sign off on something that would have reafirmed their own power.
The one that they had to start with.
Right.
Like, it's so funny. Like, the president breaks the law. They go, oh, should we have a vote on if we should make the law be real? And they go, nah. That's it. That's what happens every time. Like, and it's also interesting that they do it. I also am not, it would be interesting to talk to someone who does this, but why do they have to do it, like, specific country by country? You know what I mean? Like, why do they have to do it so it's like, no bombing Greenland, no. You know what I mean? Like, how about you just don't break the Constitution, period? You know what I mean? Like, why? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah. It's very strange to me, but it also, like, reaffirms the importance of the midterm elections and just, like, congressional control anyways, because, like, it would be significant if Democrats controlled the Senate and House. And basically, like, what they're doing with DHS, which obviously only shuts down, like, part of DHS, but, like, their whole, like, withholding the renewal of funds for DHS, like, they'd be able to do stuff like that on steroids if they were actually in control of both houses. You know what I mean? So, like, this is another example of, like, why local U.S. House races matter so much. Because 219 to 212 is a close vote.
100%. Like, And one that would definitely shift the other way, given on how the midterms would go. Yeah, so, no, it's a great point. And why these midterms, everyone needs to go vote, period. You know what I mean? Like, there's no little statement piece, please. Yeah, you must go vote. It's interesting. There are a few other things that I want to talk to, but I want to also just I want to rattle them off, and I want to talk about more philosophical stuff. So obviously in the news this week, oil prices are going crazy, over $90 a barrel on Friday. This is up 36%. This is freaking out the White House. Susan Wiles, the chief of staff, freaking out because now retail gasoline is over $3.50 a gallon, up 11%. There's this weird Strait of Hormuz stuff going on. We're going to shuttle oil tankers through. No, we're not. Drama. Also, Iran's shooting rockets all over the place, almost hitting Europe. And now they're freaking out that maybe Europe's going to get dragged into it. And I want to get into that too. But
one hit the U.S. Embassy in Norway, but it was
really?
only minor injuries were reported. Yeah, in Oslo.
Shit. Yeah, I didn't even hear that. Fuck. That's crazy.
Yeah, that might have been within the past day. But yeah, they're basically anywhere where there's an embassy. Iran is just tossing drones.
Yeah,
doesn't seem like a great strategy for them.
Okay, I was thinking that at first too, and I actually think it may be a pretty good strategy. So it's a high risk, high reward. You want to hear my argument for it? Because maybe you're going to think I'm an idiot. So everyone's saying this is dumb. So I'm clearly probably wrong. I'm almost certainly wrong. I'm the man who doesn't know what a shoe is. So take pinch of salt here. But okay, here's what I'll have to say. One is, so last time, the 12-day war, they're calling it. Remember last year with the Iran-Israel drama? Iran only shot stuff at Israel, right? And Iran immediately lost, right? They lost the war pretty quickly. And I think my understanding is that what they're doing here is by shooting everyone, right? They're spreading the U.S. support more thinly. So the U.S. then has to pick and choose who they help support, where they can't just dump all their support on Israel. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is that, say they can't give, they shoot Bahrain, Qatar, whatever, all these Middle East, UAE, stuff like that. The U.S. won't give support to all of them, which will inherently make one of them grumpy that they're not getting help. You know what I mean? Which will then put more pressure on the U.S. to calm down. I think this is the thought. Again, I don't know if this is actually true. So then, what it does is it kind of it could backfire, obviously, in that everyone could just spank them and kill them immediately. You know what I mean? That's the obvious reason why everyone thinks it's stupid. But it could help if no one wanted to do this anyway. You know what I mean? So they're just dude, they're shooting rockets at us. Stop this. You know what I mean? I think that's what they think the upside case is. And since they already got smoked by only shooting Israel last year, this is kind of the other kind of plan. That's my pro, not my pro Iranian thing, but that's why I think it could actually be sneaky and not a bad idea if it were to work out. What do you think about that?
I think you're onto something, because I don't know. I have this instinct whenever there's a dominant media narrative out there, I automatically want to doubt it and try to look for the holes. And so this narrative that whether you support our invasion in Iran or not, this narrative that Iran is so dumb because they're bombing all these other countries around them and they're going to get the whole world mad at them. That seems a little too simple for the level of geopolitics that
that's what I'm
the
saying.
Iranian government is talking about. You don't think they're having those conversations in their war room being hey, don't you think if we bomb all these countries they'll bomb us back? Obviously I'm sure they're having those conversations. So there has to be some logic behind the plan. So I think that makes sense. It's a bit of a gamble, like you said, high risk, high reward, for the reasons you said, but also because they kind of have to hope that a majority of the people in these Gulf states that they're sending drones at, they kind of have to believe that a significant amount of them will blame the United States for having their bases there and for bombing Iran and for kicking all this off, and not that a majority of the people are just going to see it as Iran is sending drones and missiles into our country. Let's
go
bomb them
mess
back.
them up.
And like, that's
exactly.
it. So
it's a risky move.
I think that's a big gamble to like assume that people in like, it's like the Dick Cheney gamble of like, they're going to welcome us in Iraq as liberators. It's like, are you sure that when we are bombing their country, they're going to welcome us as liberators?
Yeah, probably not. Right? Yeah, I could see it going. I do think normally no way. Especially because Iran is typically enemy number one, right? Like of that region. Like, but I do think over the last few years has changed the way the whole Middle East dynamic is changing forever. Because forever it was Iran is this destabilizing force, right? They have their proxy networks. They're causing problems. They're part of this larger kind of group of kind of troublemakers in a way. And this is kind of, and then obviously you have the Shia Sunni kind of thing going on in the background, which is I'm just throwing away as like a throwaway line, but obviously thousands of years of history and art, super complex. But like, I really think nowadays that Israel is now considered one of the more destabilized. Like, they're the ones starting fights. You know what I mean? And like, there's something to be said, I think, about the fact that Iran and the U.S., mediated by Oman, frankly, also, like, we're literally negotiating nuclear deals, like, in the middle of it, right? And that was exactly the case beforehand, right? And so, for starters, I wanted to say this off the top also. Why would a country now, like, if you think of, like, rogue nuclear states, right? Like, bad actor, you have on one hand Iran and other North Korea, right? And if you really think about it, right, Iran has done everything by the book in a way. They negotiated deals with the U.S. They have had the monitoring. After the U.S. tore up the deal, Trump did, they retried. They had people going in. And what has that helped them? They've been getting bombed like crazy. Their leader is dead. Everyone hates them. North Korea, on the other hand, went total maniac. Said, we're not going to talk to anyone. We're nuts. Right? And they've been able to actually get the nukes in place. So, like, if you're a country who's gonna go rogue, isn't this kind of giving you evidence that you should take the North Korea path, not the Iran path? Because being kind of open kind of screwed you. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, aren't we giving like kind of negative reinforcement to a positive force versus the like positive behavior versus the other way around? Like, and I don't know. I've been thinking about that since the last week. And like, I feel like people in the Middle East have always kind of thought the U.S. were kind of hypocrites in a way because of the Saudi Arabia stuff, all that stuff. So like, I don't know. I feel like this momentum could potentially maybe capture a little bit of more of sympathy for Iran, which never has sympathy, right? Like, they haven't had sympathy in 50 years. So anyways, I don't know. I have no idea if any of this is right, but these are thoughts that I've been thinking about. What do you think about that North Korea-Iran path comment, though? Do you think that has any merit?
Yeah, it's a great point. And the lesson, I think, is like, one, what you said, like, why cooperate with the West or the United States in these nuclear deals when, regardless of what you do,
they bomb you.
They're gonna, assassinate your leader and bomb the shit out of your cities. The second part of that with like North Korea, I think it is partially, though, how close they are with their superpower ally. And North Korea must be closer with China than Iran is with Russia, or Russia is just so weakened because of their Ukraine war that it doesn't really matter if Russia supports Iran in this case, because Russia's not going to sacrifice all of their soldiers in Iran when they're fighting a war in Ukraine. So, like, I think that's part of it, too. Like, the fear with North Korea, like, the sole thing preventing us from taking out their leadership is China, right? It's the
and
one
Russia
country
too, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
But, like, China's, like, controls almost all their food supply, their weapon supply, et cetera, et cetera. And without Chinese support, they would truly be against the world. And Iran people thought they were that close with Russia and like they have that history of cooperation, but it doesn't seem to matter enough right now. And that may just be because Russia's much weaker than China is in modern times as well.
Well, and North Korea sent troops to Ukraine for Russia as part of a deal. Like,
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And also, that's a good point, though, because North Korea's like governance structure mirrors China and Russia. Not exactly the same, but like it's more in that vein, like the more communist authoritarian vein versus the religious, you know what I mean, vein. And China's been, wrongfully the oppression they've had on the Uyghur people, but is like kind of an anti-Islamic kind of attack anyway. So they're not really fond of and it's a lot. And that kind of governance has an interesting relationship with religion in general, right? Like communist parties don't tend to like religion. They're usually like Mao, right? Killed all the religion off, like when he got power. Anyway, yeah, it's all interesting. It's fascinating stuff though, because what's the incentive for Iran to stop, right? Like you go back to negotiations and you're just going to get bombed again, right? Like, and I think the U.S. was hoping that the regime would just topple, which was dumb because airstrikes have never ended a regime. Like that's just not something that's happened. And I think they were hoping it would be Venezuela too, where like the vice president would come in and be more open to negotiations. Where in this case, the Iranian president and the new council they've formed has like said like we're just going to double down, So it does feel like a land invasion is on the horizon. I'm starting to think that is the more likely outcome. So the U.S. is already starting to fund Kurdish forces to maybe plan a land invasion, which is just, a local region there. And so I wouldn't be surprised because if you truly want regime change, which is what Israel wants more than anything, you're going to need boots on the ground.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny, Trump was asked about arming those Kurdish groups after that report. And he said, quote, "They're willing to go in, but I've told them I don't want them to go in. The war is complicated enough as it is. We don't want to see the Kurds get hurt or killed." So that's an interesting quote to go along with, I guess Americans should be worried about getting bombed.
You're right. That's a hell of a
is that we need to protect all the Kurdish groups in Iran and Iraq.
But my God, hey, that's the price of war. If Americans, well, he's always had an odd relationship with American soldiers, right? I mean, remember him going after John McCain for being a prisoner of war. The generals don't really like him typically. You know what I mean? Like he's been a weird, very pro-patriotic kind of word vomit, but actually kind of anti-military people.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also kind of funny in a sad way that the Dow Jones had its worst week in over a year.
After Pam Bondi.
Yeah, only a few weeks after Pam Bondi cited the Dow doing great when asked about Epstein's files.
The Dow had a rough go. Well,
yeah, like, are we supposed to not care about the Dow again?
I thought we liked the Dow. Yeah, I thought we were big Dow guys. No, I mean, and like, yeah, it's just so weird. And it's like, so obviously Trump's, the last thing on this was Trump and the president of Spain are fighting. Because their Prime Minister of Spain, Sanchez, said he wouldn't allow the U.S. to use the naval bases in the area for more Iranian strikes because he said we never said we wanted to do this. You know what I mean? And Article 5 of NATO never got there. And obviously Trump said we're going to stop trading with Spain, and now we hate Spain and whatever. That's probably nothing like in the long run other than riling up another ally for no reason. But I did the Wednesday show about this. And I just wanted to get some of your live thoughts on this about just how much more the U.S. likes Israel than NATO. And the fact that Israel and the U.S. don't have a defense pact. Like, they don't have one. And they do have one with NATO, like, and Canada and like all these countries. Like, they're like literally so much closer, like functionally speaking, like in terms of like economics and stuff like that. Yet it's so much more intense with Israel, like their relationship with it. And, we didn't even talk about the North Korea versus Iran thing, but like they don't like South Korea as much as think about the tariffs they've done on South Korea, like the fighting they do with South Korea. They care way less about South Korea than they do about Israel. And I do think this is worth talking about with you because, so I did the whole show on this. Did you listen? It's really cool if you didn't listen to it.
Yeah, I did listen. I thought, sorry, keep going.
No, go on. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I thought you made a great point about it's not like a simple AIPAC donates more to presidential campaigns than other people because they don't. However, they do donate so much to local races. And that's obviously a big factor. I think that's a great point. But also, like, for Trump to, while he's criticizing Spain, say as evidence of why Spain is very hostile to NATO, it's like you're hostile to NATO.
You hate NATO.
Trump has been the most anti-NATO president we've ever had.
You were threatening about freaking bombing Greenland and taking over Greenland.
Right. You can't start referencing like Spain being hostile to NATO as a reason to not like Spain when you're trying to dismantle it.
And so, like, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, too, on top of that, was this evangelical thing. I mean, I don't know if your jaw dropped as much as mine did when I was really, because I've heard, like, stuff about it, like rumors. So what I'm talking about, for people who don't know and haven't checked this out, I'll go into much more detail on Wednesday. But, like, basically, Trump does incredibly well with evangelicals in the U.S., which is a big, big religious sect of Christianity. It's interesting because it's so regional. It's all basically in the South. And 8 out of 10 of them voted for Trump, and it's around like 40-ish million people. And out of that group, a huge percentage of them, including probably Mike Huckabee and Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of Defense, think that the second coming of Jesus is only possible if the Jewish people run the Holy Land, or Jerusalem, that is. So a huge driving force of their policy is because of this. And so, like, the Lindsey Grahams and stuff like that. And I was just, like, thinking to myself, I can't stop thinking about this. Like, you know what I mean? And I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Because, like, at first I was like, oh, well, come on, that's a conspiracy. But then there's, like, tens of millions of books sold. There's people saying this. Dude, Pete Hegseth has the Crusaders slogan tattooed on his chest. Like, and he's the secretary. And there were reports this week of the generals were telling people it was holy war and stuff like that. So I don't know. I just wanted to get your thoughts on this because this is crazy to me, and maybe a big reason why a lot of this has changed over time.
Yeah, it is crazy. And Republicans have dominated evangelicals since Reagan, basically. Like, Jimmy Carter was the last, like, Southern super Christian Democrat to win a bunch of Southern states. Like, Clinton won some, but he didn't run on, like, a super Christian platform. And obviously George W. Bush, like, really reaffirmed the Republican Party as, like, the evangelical Christian party. George W. Bush is born again evangelical, for those that don't know. Like, he wasn't raised like that. He drank too much in college and then found Jesus and was born again.
Grew up in Connecticut, by the way, in Mass. I don't know where that Southern accent came from.
I remember the 2008 Republican primaries, something like 10 out of 12 Republican candidates all claimed that God told them to run for president that year.
Lord help me.
Yeah, but it is really fascinating because I feel like in the modern world of Israel and Jewish dialogue on social media and stuff, there's a lot of jokes nowadays of about like Jews thinking they're the chosen people. And like is why, like, people thinking all of Israel's actions is because they believe that
anti-Semitic
Jews, some religious
slop. Yeah.
Right. They think Jewish people are walking around all day thinking like, I'm the chosen one that will get into heaven.
Have they ever met a Jewish person?
Right, which is not what Jews believe.
Not one Jewish guy in the world ever has had that confidence.
Yeah, but it is interesting because evangelical Christians are a way larger group than Jews and way more loyal to one party than Jews. Like, Jews are generally vote Democrat in America, but it's relatively split. Evangelical Christians, like you said, it's like 80% consistently. Republicans just dominate.
Yeah,
so
it's not even close.
It's interesting, and I think it hasn't been talked about a lot since Trump's first term because Mike Pence was one of these evangelicals. So, like, that part of the Republican Party was still alive. Whereas like since then and since J.D. Vance, like Trump has somehow still kept all of their voting support without pretending to be Christian in any way. But it is fascinating that like there's this religious aspect to it where like I do think a lot of evangelical Christians believe that from a religious standpoint. The stuff about Israel and like the importance of controlling it politically for some future supernatural
second coming Armageddon event. And
right.
And like the other thing about that I said on the show, but is worth repeating, that their view of this isn't pro for the Jewish people. Like they just want to use the Jewish people to get Jesus to show up.
They're like the Jews are holding our spot.
Yeah. And they need to keep it warm while he comes, and then we're going to get rid of them. That's what the story is. Like, it's not, we love them. So it's weird that this is a thing. And it really makes me think about all the things we've talked about over the last year in like random like faith counselors and faith groups that they've put into the White House, you know, like the faith leaders and head of religion or whatever. And like, oh, this is just more of that. You know what I mean? Like this is just, and these guys have been thinking this forever. And it's so funny because you're starting to see so many like Freudian slips of different people saying like, you know, Americans need to, like Kash Patel, Americans need to wake up and realize that we need to protect Israel. Like just what? Why is the FBI head saying that? Or Lindsey Graham going, I do everything I can to protect Israel and the U.S. No. It should be the other way around. You're a senator of the United States. And I just wanted to show a picture really quick. Because like sometimes, like I think sometimes this stuff doesn't get reported on. So look at this really quick. Can you see my screen here? Like he has these every month where they all come to the White House and they put their hands on him and speak in tongues. And I just thought that should be shown again. Remember that this happens. So when they say, oh, these are crazy religious countries that we're invading and blah, 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 like, remember that this happens. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Trump is so obviously not a believing Christian that, like, we forget that so many elected Republicans, like, really are. Either are or pretend to be with their whole heart.
I think we have a lot of listeners in Europe and in the Northeast and stuff like that. Like when we say Christian, we're not talking about what your Christian is or like Catholics. Like this is a totally different creature that is, I think, sometimes understated how extreme it is. Like it almost isn't a fair, like it's in the Christian canon, like in the sense that they use the iconography of like Christianity, but like it actually doesn't share that much in common with many of the things that are in Europe or Canada, you know what I mean? Like, and I do think that sometimes it gets lost how peculiar, you know what I mean? Like this evangelical stuff can be. I mean, they're speaking in tongues. I mean, they're going off.
Yeah. And like you mentioned briefly, like it's so regional. Like me and you grew up in the Boston area where most Christians are Italian or Irish Catholics.
Yeah.
And like there's a unique history with Catholicism in U.S. politics, with JFK being the first Catholic president and JFK being one of the biggest supporters of the separation of church and state. Like that was partly what he ran on. And so like people, a lot of Catholics, at least like Northeast American Catholics, like don't see their religious faith as guiding all of their political opinions, but a lot of people in other parts of the country really do. And, you know, these are people that would never vote for a pro-choice or pro-gay rights candidate, regardless if they agree with everything else they said.
Period.
Like if they support the right to abortion or gay marriage, like they cannot vote for that person. So like these are the kind of groups we're talking about. And yeah, it's easy to forget that if you grew up in like certain regions of the US or the world. And like
sure.
I like me and you have both spent a bunch of time in Europe, and like there's a very different ideas about the separation of church and state, especially in Western Europe, where like there's just like more of an acknowledgement of, because of our histories of government versus Catholic Church and fighting for power and all this stuff, like even if we're technically a Christian country, we've like learned our lessons about like, let's not constantly bring Jesus into all of our political and policy decisions. Whereas like America was founded on paper as not a Christian nation. Like it was founded as there is a separation of church and state, but like in practice, there's no separation at all. Like a lot of Republicans and even a lot of Democrats say that their faith directly informs all of their opinions.
100%. And yeah, so what you get is this weird thing where in Europe you have like more like crosses everywhere, or like things like religious symbolism all around like the buildings and stuff like that. Yet a very clean cut in actual decision making, whereas in the US it's the opposite, where it's like not that like visual, you know what I mean? But like it's actually in every political decision to some extent, at least. So it's like the worst case scenario. anyway, it's one of those things that like, how can we not think about this more and more as like we see decisions getting made? And we're going to get to the Texas primaries later, where a pastor won, and he's like, I think, a great example of not what we're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, he's done a great job. But I think we need to get to the other huge, a news story of the week, which is Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem has finally gotten fired, and she's gone. And I have to say, the sad trombone. My God, has it been a time coming. My God, a long time coming for Miss Noem. She's out. And what's so funny about her getting canned this week is it wasn't about the killings, the ICE killings. It wasn't the Preddy murder. It wasn't the Renee Good murder. It was a campaign ad that she spent an egregious amount of money on. And what happened is during the hearing this week, Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, I believe, who is one of the more folksier speaking individuals in the House.
He's the exact stereotype of I'm a country lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he said that, he was grilling her about this $220 million ad that Noem made, right? Which obviously, and I think this is actually a little bit of a tangent, but when people, like when we're talking about when they steal money, with Trump taking money, this is taxpayer money. This is our money, right? Ultimately, when they're taking money and using it stupid, they're taking it from us in a real way. And I think that needs to be reminded when people, because I think sometimes these dollar counts, like feel detached, you know what I mean? Like, but it really isn't. It isn't detached. So anyway, Noem did this big ad, and in the hearing, Senator Kennedy said, "Did Trump approve this?" And she said yes. And apparently that enraged Trump because he says he didn't approve it. Now, honestly, I'm actually ironically, Kristi Noem lies so much. I mean, in her biography, she said she met Kim Jong-un, even though she's never met. So this woman lies like nobody's business. So I don't know why I feel, just shows you the state of affairs where I kind of want to believe her that he did approve it, even though they're both such liars. I don't know who to believe. But apparently Kennedy said that when he called him up after and said, he was as mad as fried chicken or something like that.
Oh, no.
Dead. Noem was dead as fried chicken, and he was mad as a murder hornet, which, all right, Kennedy.
This guy's just typing folksy phrase into Google like seconds before the hearing.
Exactly. He was as angry as like a like a cow who hasn't had his hay. like run through him like foreign water. Anyway, like they just say stuff.
I do declare.
Exactly. So I wanted to play the ad. You know what I mean? Have you seen the ad?
I don't think so, actually.
No, it's actually very hard to find. So it took me kind of a while. This random YouTube account had it. But before we show the ad, I want people to think about that number, $220 million. That's bigger than the budget of the Titanic, the movie.
The blockbuster.
The massive hit. I think it's a bigger budget than Oppenheimer. the 3-hour film. This is a ginormous budget. It can't be undersold. This ad is a minute long. What on earth could the money have gone to? So I wanted to play the ad because, it's an ad. But let me see. So, all right, ready? Oh, my God.
I did not realize that one horse and a green screen cost $200 million.
Dude, it's a glamour ad. She's strutting around going, these wide open skies, they remind me of my... Like, it's just so ridiculous. How did that cost that much? It's ridiculous. She stole the money. She clearly stole the money. I mean, I'm sorry. There's no way this is an embezzlement. I don't know. Obviously, I'm talking out of my ass, but someone stole money here. There's no way that cost that much. I'm feeling as mad as a murder hornet.
Yeah. Yeah. Senator Kennedy's real issue was she wasn't riding the horse properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Her form was off. Yeah,
he didn't like her fancy boots.
It's fascinating, too, because of how, of course, overly complimentary the ad is of Trump.
Yeah, it's a joke.
And yeah, right when I saw on my phone while I was on the way home from work the other day that Noem was let go, and then I just turned on YouTube to find, like, any news channel that was like putting it on their YouTube because I wanted to see. And I saw there was Fox News. So I was like, oh, let me see like how Fox is covering this. And it was all about her wasting money on an ad. Not one mention of the good or pretty killings or anything that ICE is doing. Like, not one mention. Like, that's not even a factor.
It's a joke.
They just completely pinned it on. Trump got upset with her because she was wasting money on ads instead of spending all the money defending our border like she should have. Like, that was the entire thing. Yeah, it's interesting too that like obviously Senator Kennedy is a Republican, if we didn't make that clear. It's interesting that the thing that got Noem fired was that a fellow Republican found a way to portray her actions as disloyal and disrespectful to Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that's super interesting.
It's a very like interesting approach. Like and I watched some clips from the hearing, and like Kennedy even says while he's going over this stuff, like, if I was the president, I would be frustrated. I would be really mad about all this. Like he said, I think you're putting the president in a tough spot. So it's like all the criticism had zero to do with the catastrophe that ICE is right now, and everything to do with portraying her as going against Trump, which, as we know, is how you get canceled within the modern Republican Party. What do you think? And
maybe an approach that should be used more often. You know, maybe this is like with Pia Bondi, right? Like, should they say like this is really putting him in a bad spot by throwing fits on, you know what I mean? Like lying under oath. Maybe you're putting Trump in a bad spot should be the framing of everything from like one to another. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good point. And it does kind of show. Yeah, it's interesting though, because like, again, if someone were to care about, wasting money, right, not spending money wisely, right, then shouldn't the $1 billion a day for the Iran war resonate stronger? Like, right. It's just, this is the Republicans' strongest skill, is the musical chairs they play with issues they care about, and trying to pin them down on something that is sticky for like multiple issues that are independent of each other, but it like shares some sort of thread, has become so difficult that I don't know if this is true. You know what I mean? Like, next time someone does it, in this case, we didn't care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just, they're so unpredictable in that way. Like, in what they'll get upset about. They're predictably upset about everything, but the reason why is always shifting around. You can't really pin them down on anything.
Right, exactly. And I think it's interesting that the person that Trump is nominating to replace Kristi is Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin. And CNN reported that Trump is choosing him because he loves watching Mullin on TV. Mullin has become this big cable news, Fox News, Newsmax, OAN guest the past few years. And Trump just loves watching that stuff. That's how he gets a lot of his news, which is amazing for a president to not rely on the briefings. Yeah,
but actually, it's Fox and Friends. And
actually,
Tucker.
It's Jesse Waters.
Yeah, literally. Like, that's not even a joke, though. Like, that's just the true.
Right. But like it speaks to the same thing of like Trump values loyalty and making him look good above all else. And he likes how Mullin looks on TV. So he thinks that Mullin is going to make Trump look good. Whereas with the Kennedy stuff, Trump eventually became convinced that Kristi was making Trump look bad on conservative news. Obviously, he doesn't care what MSNBC says about him, but like specifically on Fox News, Kristi was doing damage to Trump's reputation, which is ultimately what he cares about above everything else.
100%. And yeah, I mean, Markwayne Mullin he has become kind of this war defender puppet. Like, they send him out. Well, it's Venezuela. They've been sending him out to like defend things. Kennedy had a great quote about him. Fox asked him what he thought about Markwayne, which, by the way, my God, I mean, they're even going more folksier with a guy named Markwayne Mullin. They said, what do you think about Markwayne? And this is his direct quote. I said, A, I like him. B, he's very smart. C, he's a very good businessman. And D, if I didn't believe these things, I'd lie to you because Markwayne would whoop my ass. All right? Like, what are we doing with this? Why are you getting so cute? Like, what do you actually think, dude? So he's a tough guy, or he's insecure? Like, I mean, like, what are we like? What is this? They give me nothing.
He'll kick your ass for looking at you wrong. You know what I'm saying?
His tongue is more venomous than a rattler. He'll bite you while you're cooking okra and slapping Crocs. Like, they just say stuff. Like, it can just it's so stupid,
so insane. But we do have to mention that he's an amateur mixed martial arts fighter. His website claims he has a record of 5-0. I have to investigate that a little more.
5-0.
So he was a House rep for 10 years and then became a senator 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, when he was a new senator, he was on the Senate floor where he was questioning the head of the Teamsters Union, Sean O'Brien, and he challenged him to a fight during the Senate hearing, saying, this is the new DHS Secretary, saying, if you want to run your mouth, we can be 2 consenting adults. We can finish it here. And then once the guy replied, Mullin replied, stand your butt up. Stand your butt up now. Interesting phrasing.
Yeah, this is a shame. That's a shame. Oh, and I mean, like, let's be real. Like, this probably won't do anything to change the course of DHS. In fact, it'll probably make it a little trickier because any like built-in sexism that Noem was dealing with is now, like it will be harder to get Mullin down than Noem, because Noem, like, there's something about her and Bondi, like, obviously they're women-y and their voice, like, people don't like them already. You know what I mean? Like, Republicans already don't like those two. Like, if you asked any Republican, who don't you like from the administration, those two would have already been the two. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they're much more forgiving over Pete Hegseth, who's just as, or RFK Jr., you know what I mean, who's just as bad as these guys. I mean, they're all horrible. Like, there's no difference here. And speaking of Bondi, who should be the next to go, by the way, like if there were anyone who's I'd put money on. So this week, the Department of Justice admitted that they withheld 47,635 files that mentioned Trump particularly. In specific, NPR found that they withheld files that were specifically focused on FBI interviews with a woman who alleged Trump sexually abused her when she was 13 or 14. The FBI interviewed her 4 times. Only the first interview, which does not mention Trump, was publicly released. And so in the law itself says it specifically prohibits withholding documents that, on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, political sensitivity, blah, 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 blah. So they have now released those things. When asked to Trump, about this, he just said, I've already been totally exonerated. He has never been charged. So I don't know who taught him that phrase, but they aren't using that phrase correctly. So anyway, thoughts on this? Do you think anyone will care?
The excuses are so dumb and they keep happening every week.
I know.
We accidentally redacted this. We didn't mean to. And then,
it's just so insulting.
Why didn't you release this specific rape accusation about Trump that was in the files? The DOJ says, oh, sorry, it was incorrectly coded as a duplicate. How can anyone take these excuses seriously when the entire reason the law was created was to compel you to release these documents that you said you were going to do before the law was created, but you didn't. So they had to pass a law to compel you to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, the excuses are so dumb, and it makes Trump look more and more guilty of the most serious crimes that are related to this.
And let us not forget that Pam Bondi, in her Dow Jones performance, when pressed by Ted Lieu, said, is there any evidence to suggest that Donald Trump committed any wrongdoing? She said no. Well, I've found 46,000 documents that may say otherwise. I mean, it wasn't 100% incriminating documents. He just said to suggest there's anything potential wrongdoing. I mean, I know a place to start. You know what I mean? She definitely lied under oath, right? I mean, at least it looks like it. I don't understand why there are no punishments for perjury anymore in this country. I don't know why this isn't a bigger deal, but yeah. I think full stop. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and Republicans voted to impeach Clinton because he lied under oath about having sex with an intern. Who was an adult, by the way. And this is lying about covering up accusations of the rape of a minor under oath also. At the bare minimum, Bondi should resign. Bare minimum.
No doubt about it. She should end up in jail. I mean, honestly. I mean, I would put money on the fact that she might end up in jail eventually. I think this is one of those things that I could either see or maybe a Hail Mary pardon of his whole administration before he goes. You know what I mean? The preemptive pardon. I could see that. But I wonder if she'll sign it with a real pen. Oh, that auto pen thing really went away, by the way. That was a whole thing. They dropped that. They didn't catch on. So they dropped that one. But yeah, it's interesting. Lastly, and I didn't even originally put this. Oh, actually, let's do this one first. So a piece of good news this week, I think. So the Texas primaries happened this week, and a really big kind of an upset, I think you would say. Maybe not to people who, are on Instagram a lot because this guy ran a lot of good ads, but it's always an upset, I think, when the incumbent loses a primary, and so. Representative now, state rep. So he who got famous, by the way, when the Texas reps fled with the gerrymander. This is probably the beginning of his, stardom in the political sphere. James Talarico defeated two-term Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett in a U.S. Senate primary. Talarico is a Presbyterian seminarian and a former teacher. Basically, he got, right? On the Republican side, there's a runoff between John Cornyn and Ken Paxton. Interestingly, this is the most expensive Senate primary on record, over $122 million in ad spending. That should be illegal. You know what I mean? That's disgusting for a primary. Remember, a Titanic budget was $100 million. When I just remember that, people, that this is disgusting. Also, there's the Dan Crenshaw, famous eye patch boy. He lost his primary. Which led Tony Gonzales, who we will be talking about very soon. He ended up dropping out. This guy's, whoa. We will get to that. Stick around for that. But I wanted to talk about Talarico because, and I'm going to be just for full transparency, I've donated to his campaign. So I like him. I am biased. I wanted him to win. I gave him money. So there we go. I love this guy. I think he's better Beto O'Rourke. You know what I mean? Kind of what the Beto type was trying to do, but better. And the reason why he's better, and it's kind of what I talked about in the Lonely Liberal blog post, but what we talked about last week, he didn't take money from PACs. He did it. He did it the right way. He went economic populism, but he does it in like a Kristi type presentation. I think it's a real problem for Republicans in Texas. I think this guy is a real problem, and I think he could win this whole thing. I actually think this is probably the best shot we've ever seen in our lives, legitimately, of a Democrat winning the senator seat. I'm stoked about this. I love him. So what do you think?
Yeah, it would be an amazing win if he could pull it off, because Texas is just the heart of the Republican base. It really is. To win a statewide election as a Democrat would be massive. I know, like, the past few elections, they've been coming closer, right? The past couple Ted Cruz elections.
They've always been sniffing,
Right, and it's always like, are Democrats really gaining ground, or does Ted Cruz just suck as a candidate? This is for the other Senate seat, not Cruz's seat. But it's tough to separate. Just, is Ted Cruz just so hateable that he can barely win in Texas? How many more times
can he flee the state in a weather emergency to have people not care?
Yeah, but I was going to bring up your Substack post from this week too, because it talks about Trump's economic populism and like Bernie's, and how like even though they're so different, like they're telling people they're getting screwed, which is an accurate statement. And we are getting screwed. We feel like we're getting screwed, and we want, at the bare minimum, our politicians to believe that, like, kind of.
Exactly.
And like specific ideology or policy proposals don't matter that much in elections like they used to. Like now it really is about that populism. And Talarico's great at, like, in a very different way from Bernie or Trump, he speaks the language of the people he's trying to get. He doesn't talk like he speaks like a pastor.
Yeah, he sounds like a pastor.
Yeah. And like in the same way that Trump talks like your average New York sleazebag, and Bernie talks like your average working class Brooklyn Jew. Like they talk like the people that they do really well with. And Talarico just sounds like a very grounded, very Christian, but not religiously right person, which is really interesting and like just feels so overdue. Like, why don't the Democrats have more candidates like him that are trying to reclaim Christianity from the Republicans who use it only to take away people's rights? And even though so much of Christianity focuses on helping the poor, they completely ignore that.
They hate that part.
The central part of the Jesus story, they just
literally
forget about.
That got completely glossed over.
So I think it's interesting. Like, we shouldn't be overly optimistic about his general election chances, but like it would be amazing, even if he makes it like a razor thin race, like it would be a huge win, I think.
And it's helpful that there's clearly not coordination in the Republican side, on the Republican, you know what I mean? Trump hasn't endorsed anyone. They're not really sure. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, it's clearly disorganized on the right side. So that helps, I think, like the general election odds. I also think that this is the type of guy that I could see becoming president eventually. Like, he reminds me a lot of Pete Buttigieg in the way that he is very clear with the way he communicates, very level, doesn't seem to get emotional, just very like grounded guy who really appeals to a lot of people. But the thing that he has that Buttigieg is just tied to the Biden administration, which has so much bad aura around it for whatever reason, whether you think it's good or bad, it's just true. And also, he doesn't have the, more, he's Secretary of Transportation, it's an important role, but it's not like he's been governor or senator or something like that. He was mayor of South Bend. I love Pete Buttigieg, but nevertheless, I think that could hurt him in trying to convince people. Whereas if this guy gets to become senator, you know what I mean? Like that, he could Obama, I think, like in the sense of like, it could be a few years and then he's going again, And I think one thing that we should harp on before we move on is another piece of evidence that you don't need to take money from PACs to win elections, It's harder. You have to be better at your job, But we are continually now seeing more and more evidence that this myth that the only way to be competitive is by taking all this big money, it's just not true. It's just not true. Like, it's getting proved. And I think that the excuses that Democrats are making by still taking money is getting less and less real. Every time one of these guys wins. Even if he doesn't end up winning the Senate House, it doesn't matter to me. Like, the point has been made. He beat the incumbent, you know?
Right. And also, like, people are seeing through, I think, like, politicians' claims about the other side much more. Whereas, like part of the problem with, I think, Hillary and Biden's campaigns was that the biggest negative was kind of true. Like, even though there were so many exaggerated claims from the Republicans, like the idea that Hillary is a lifelong politician who gives very standard politician answers and doesn't seem genuine, like, that's true. The idea that Joe Biden was too old to run for re-election, that was true.
Definitely.
But then, like, the idea that Mamdani is a radical communist who's going to instill Sharia law, like, obviously not true from anybody that listens to a 30-second clip of him. And that's the thing with, like, Talarico, like, the idea that he's this communist, like, any normal Republican-leaning Texan is not going to think that when they see him talk or see his ads. Like, so, like, the biggest hit you can make against him, like, is just obviously not true. And, like, I think that's, like, a good thing for the Democratic candidates.
No, and in fact, I think it's more likely that Democrats attack him. Like, I think that's the most likely outcome, is that there's going to be something that his religious beliefs push him up against, where he's going to give, like, a non-answer to a transgender question or a gay marriage question. Not gay marriage, because he's already had to do that, but, like, kind of the way they hit Zoran, like the Republicans hit Zoran about something like about, like, Israel and stuff like that. They're going to hit him with whatever that one that they know hits against his, like, personal beliefs more than, like, his policies, one way or another. And it's going to be infighting. I think that's more likely to happen, which I think will be really stupid, because it doesn't matter, like, that if it's perfect or not, in my opinion. Like, I don't think it matters. I think it's way easier to convince someone who agrees with me 80% to go the next 20 than someone who hates me. Like, it's just not a likely outcome. So, yeah, I actually think that's more likely that because eventually he'll have to answer a question like that. You know what I mean? And he's going to have to pick what to do with the way. And he'll probably come up with some good thing about how Jesus says to love all people and turn the other cheek and something like that. That will probably work, but it won't satisfy the further left people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care what they think. in this particular case, at least.
Yeah, he's got to do what he can to win Texas.
He's just got to win. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't care. Yeah. But speaking of Texas, so Tony Gonzales, who is a rep there, he was running for re-election. And so there were rumors around him for a while now that he had an affair with a staffer. And he had been denying it and denying it. Anyways, that staffer in September of 2025 lit herself on fire in her backyard, killing herself. She's by suicide, but by fire. And it came out this week that he did have the affair. There were sexual text messages between him were made public. Apparently, the woman he was having an affair with said her husband was gay and blah, blah, blah. I don't know what happened, but all we do know for sure is that this congressman was having an affair with a staff who then ultimately lit herself on fire in suicide. Holy shit. It's crazy.
Wow.
This is just fucking nuts, right? I mean, this is crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's wild. And like the theories that come out of that, like,
I know.
It kind of reminds me when, like, somebody, like, this person was found dead with 18 stab wounds. Police are saying it's a suspected suicide. And it's like, that doesn't seem like the way that typically do things. Yeah, that's not a common method of suicide, to light yourself on fire. That's usually something that
that's like
that usually something people
do
to cover up other crimes. It's lighting the evidence on fire.
Whoever, that's the most painful way to go. Why would you ever?
Right, unless like God told her to do it or something.
Which you never know with these people. I mean, it's just crazy.
That's crazy though. If he has any connection to Jeffrey Epstein, then I mean, people on the internet must be going nuts.
Yeah, I'm sure. He's had to drop out, so there's an open spot there now in Texas. But yeah, I mean, wild stuff. But anyways, for this week's kind of cultural corner, I'm taking the wheels this time. Sometimes, I like to take the wheels. It's a topic that we've talked about on the show, but it feels more vibesy than I think, more data. And so a survey this week came out it was actually conducted by King's College of London, but the point was asking different demographics about different social dynamics between genders. So, like, do you think women should do this or men should do that or blah, 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 to try to get, like, the feeling of that. And this is the craziest one. Gen Z men, 33% of them said a husband should have final word on all important decisions and, quote unquote, should do whatever their husband says. Now, what's so shocking about that is, wow, that's 1/3. That's wild. But compared to boomer men, right, seniors, only 13% of boomer men had that viewpoint. So it's almost 3 times as more common from Gen Z, and it's the only one that is that high. Actually, so boomer was the second highest, millennials the lowest, and Gen X are the lowest. So this is insane. Like this is an insane thing. And it should be noted that while Gen Z women were asked the same question, they were 18%, which is still higher than millennial men and Gen X men, by the way, and boomer men, which is crazy. Only 6% of boomer women thought that. So it's both groups are the most conservative on this particular issue. And it's really, really crazy. And I don't know why that is. It would have seemed unfathomable to me to think that was the case if you had asked high school Nick and Rick, like, do you think the generation below you is going to be more conservative on issues like that? I would have said literally no chance in hell, And yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. This is crazy.
Yeah, that's so depressing.
I thought you would be depressed.
And yeah, the comparison is really what matters, because when you first said just the first stat, I was like, that's depressing, but is that just what 1/3 of American men think of all ages? So it's really the difference is
between boomer.
An extra level of sad. Obviously, my mind goes to like Andrew Tate and those types of figures, and the whole like trad wife, like that's like rebranding of like 1950s Christian American ideas about the family, but rebranded to Snapchat. Like it's
yes, literally.
Like it's rebranded so 18-year-old guys think it's cool to like not have sex until marriage and stuff like that. Like it's
100%.
It's interesting.
And it's like, it's weird because Gen Z women in general are one of the more progressive groups, just demographic wise. So like, it's odd that their numbers are so high, even still, despite that, like their voting patterns. But what's super interesting about it in general is I think it has to coincide with this evangelical type push. You know what I mean? Like, I think they have to be related. So on a national level, so the whole country, the U.S. is 23% of people think this, which is just way too high. That's 1/4 people. I mean, that is. But if you compare that to Britain, for example, it's 13% nationwide. So with Gen Z men and women both being in single digits in England. So not a trend that seems to be an American trend. Now, compared to Indonesia, which is 66%, and Malaysia, 60%, it's a totally different can of worms. But again, there's a lot of cultural, religious things that vary these things. But if we're just comparing against Western countries, it's not even, the U.S. is more aligned with the those other two versus the other. So anyway, it's just interesting to me, and it makes me wonder how. Okay, so say you're like a Democratic like consultant or whatever, and you're doing these midterms, and we now know this, right? And obviously, a big part of winning elections is trying to get younger people to vote, trying to get anyone to vote, frankly, but, we need to figure out how to get young people to vote. How do you think this is going to affect people in the long run? Because, that's a pretty sticky number, 33%, you know what I mean, of a demographic of guys, to the point where I don't think that's dropping so significantly over the next 10 years or whatever. I highly doubt that's going to go down to 10 in 5 years. You know what I mean? It's going to stay fairly sticky.
Yeah, for sure. It's just not a good sign. But it does point to, the idea of, I think typically, before modern Trump era, younger people are much more progressive and liberal than older people. And I think a lot of that is progressives tend to be seen as anti-authority. And when you're young, you're more inclined to be anti-authority and anti the ruling order of the older generations. And Trump sort of flipped that, where Trump made himself the anti-establishment conservative while also courting people with evangelical, very traditional Christian, right-wing beliefs at the same time. So he kind of merged populism and being anti-authority and anti the current world order. He merged that somehow with
it's crazy.
The beliefs of outdated Southern religious right beliefs, basically. So I think that's partly why you see that. This is the trickle down effect of that, kind of.
It makes me worry that this Christian ethno-state kind of gobbledygook that the Heritage Foundation is peddling isn't going to go anywhere. You know what I mean? Because those Gen Z people are going to run for office, right? Many of them men. And, a third of them think this. Then probably a third of the conservative candidates that are Gen Z men will think that. You know what I mean? Or even higher. So, I don't think that's going to be going anywhere. What's more interesting to me, it's how did this emerge out of a group that was famous for cancel culture? You know what I mean? How it just shows you how much infighting was in that, not literally, because all these gens are fake labels and fake buckets. They're not coordinated groups, but it just shows you how stupid it is to think about them like that, buckety. You know what I mean? Because the Republicans in one side of their mouth was saying this is the whiniest, brattiest, cancel sensitivist group. And now on the other side of the facts, a third of them are the most conservative with gender roles of all living in America. You know what I mean? So it just shows you, it's just madness. It's just a bizarro bunch. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what to think about this stuff. It's just, if you're listening, what do you think about it? I mean, I don't know what the hell to think about this,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right in. Right in what you...
How the hell do you deal with this? How do you run a campaign like that? You know what I mean? What do you do? Because you need these guys to some extent, right? I mean, that's a huge amount of people. If you think about it, millions and millions and millions of people that you try to not have not like you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's tough to find a way to appeal to people with views like that without compromising any of your own
basic
beliefs.
Exactly. Yeah,
because
exactly.
Obviously I'm not telling Democratic candidates, hey, you should start promoting these outdated gender beliefs about women in a kitchen. No, of course not.
No.
But you have to try to appeal to those same types of people in a different way without changing your mind on those things.
I think it shows more that just economics, right? Hit them about what happened to the crypto king? You know what I mean? What happened to the crypto bro? He was supposed to make crypto boom. Where is that? I think they need to be hammering that. If I was a Democratic consultant, I'd be dude, such a huge portion of these guys voted for Trump because of crypto. And he totally bombed it. He just made a bunch of money himself. He made billions of dollars himself while totally screwing you. And that has not been in the news enough, I think. I think that should be one of the big attacks.
Yeah, for sure. Especially since I think a lot of these people too share the concerns about AI and big tech and stuff that a lot of progressives do.
Yeah.
But Trump somehow is able to balance all this stuff politically and retain all these different core bases of GOP support and not alienate them. But it's kind of Trump's political magic is people see what they want to see in him. If they're a libertarian who doesn't want America to get involved in foreign wars, they see Trump as like the anti-war candidate. But if you're a neoconservative who thinks America should constantly show its strength in the whole world, you'll see Trump as the strong guy.
That's the beauty of not having a single belief. You can be whatever you want.
Exactly. Right.
That's the treat of just lying every time you speak.
Right. Exactly. There's a quote for everything. If you want to believe Trump agrees with you on something, you can find a quote.
Literally, there's unlimited material. He just won't stop. Like, he said he likes this. He said he wants this. He loves baseball. He loves football. You can say any topic from like anything from anyone. You probably just can't find him complimenting Rosie O'Donnell. That's probably the only thing that doesn't exist on the internet. No, I mean, it's nuts. But I mean, that's kind of our show. Do you have anything else you want to go to before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you per usual. And let us know what you thought right in the comments about all this stuff. And you comment like, turn the cameras off. Be nice. I'm like, they're going to kill us. They're just going to go like, these fucking guys. The internet is not nice. But anyway, all right. I'll talk to you later. See you.
Talk to you later.
And that's our show, folks. Thank you so much for listening today. If you like the show, please give it a 5-star review wherever you are listening. It's much appreciated. You really help us out. Telling people to also helps. Both are good. But more importantly, I want to know what you think about all this crazy news. Let me know either in the comments on YouTube, but you can also write us into thelonelyliberalpodcast@gmail.com. So either one. And we'll be back on Wednesday, per usual, with our normal solo type show. But until then, take it easy. Keep it up. We got it. All right. Bye-bye.